All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know we have a guest coming on here in about 5 minutes. I want to time it appropriately. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us tonight. I know that a lot of people have actually pre-registered for this. They're starting to come on now. This is being recorded, so you can get this out to your people at a later time. So we have some great guests on the Zoom tonight. A lot of you have met Garrick, of course, but you'll have a chance to meet Eric Hewson, Dr. Rosa, and Dr. Pleener as well. So excited to have these guys on board. But let me get right into it. For some of the people that haven't heard what TradeFan is up to, let me get right into that. And then I'll have Eric speak to what Same Here Global's doing with us. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome to TradeFan Sports. It really is something that's been, years and years and years in the making. But I want to acknowledge this right now. This is the second slide on here for a reason, okay, for an absolute reason. And we're lucky to have connected to Same Here Global. Mental health awareness has always been our top initiative, our top priority. But I just happened to send Eric Hewson, who you'll meet later, about 185 DM messages and finally said, maybe I should talk to this guy. So really, though, I think we can make a difference together. There's no question. With sports, there's a huge connection. There's awareness that we can make through our platform. And I really do think that the combined effort here, we can make a difference in people's lives. I have no doubt about it. So it came to me years and years ago, actually, this whole idea. I was playing on CBS Sports and ESPN and Yahoo. I was playing fantasy sports 40 years ago before you could do it online. And then I had the opportunity to join the online game, have a lot of fun. And then I started referring people. I started to refer people and they started to refer people and they started to refer people. And then what I noticed is people were just having fun. It became viral. People were sharing and we created this big community of sports enthusiasts. But what do these companies all have in common? They have advertising, they have game sponsorships, they have in-game purchases. And what happens is they don't share the revenue. They make a lot of money off our free game, our free play. Sometimes people will put a little money into the pot, but most of it is for free to create value for the advertising, the game sponsorships, and the in-game purchases. So TradeFan has a unique platform. You can actually trade players in real time during the games. And I'll show you this. Actually, let's talk about this. They have a unique stock market game, which I'll show you. They have a pick 3 game. We want to have a game, and we have a game that's made for everyone, made for just the simple average sports fan that can play, loves to get online and pick 3 players and watch them during the games that are played. Right now, we have NBA, MLB, NHL, golf, and NFL will be coming out here before the next preseason game. We'll have MMA, soccer, CFL, WNBA, NCAA football. Basically, if you can measure it, we're going to have it. There's no question. So where we go for here's the uniqueness. Here's what happens. Here's a lineup that I picked way back when NBA was playing. It's a Wednesday night game. I picked 5 players prior to the game starting. And then once the game started, I hit trade. And then what happens is this middle screen comes up right here. And you notice Same Here Global is right here. We can advertise anything we want right here. It takes about 60 seconds to actually execute the trade, to process the trade. So while people are waiting for that trade to happen, Same Here Global or anything we want to advertise can be front and center. Pretty cool. So here's the difference. Here is why people are referring people to TradeFan, because what they've done is they put together a revenue sharing plan where if we bring the players and create value for the advertising, they're actually going to share it. So there's some upfront bonuses that you can make. And there's also some monthly revenue pools that you can get into. So game sponsorships, advertising, all the in-game purchases, all those things will be shared with the people who actually bring value to the site. So enter FanCentric. You guys have met Garrick Jones before, well, actually several of you. He's the founder and CEO of FanCentric. He played 6 years in the NFL and 6 years in the CFL. And we've had a great opportunity for the last, I would say, year to really come together and figure out how we can make a difference. It's been an absolute pleasure. Garrick works his tail end off to make this whole vision happen. And what FanCentric is a global NFT community of crypto and sports enthusiasts reimagining ownership of sports organizations. So what if someday you could say, you know what? I'm part owner of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm part owner of the Dallas Cowboys. That would be pretty cool. Now, that's not where it's going to start. We know that, but I know we're getting close to the CFL. I know we're getting close to some other organizations. So imagine through our NFTs and some other funding, have the ability to kind of, measure it from the inside. Okay. Measure it from the inside, meaning you're now an owner of the team. So here's what happens. TradeFan. We've got free games. We're going to build, and we are building, a massive global community. And then you've got FanCentric digital rewards that'll come out. We have influencer NFTs that I'll talk about. FanCentric NFTs. Now, all of a sudden, all these free games are sitting there. How do you get into some of these special games? Maybe you have to use a FanCentric NFT. Maybe you have to use one of our influencer NFTs. So imagine what can happen when we build this massive community on TradeFan. The first NFT that was launched through FanCentric is the Legend NFT. It has a game pass. You have exclusive tournaments on TradeFan, entry into $25,000, a $56,000 tournament, access to early token purchases, 20% discount on their FanCentric store. 4 people will actually win attendance to the Super Bowl party, 2 that referred them, and the top 2, and then the top 2 that referred them. So pretty cool. Prizes to include autographed jerseys, balls, hats, and other memorabilia, of course. So here's what happens. We're going to launch our pro athlete influencer NFT. And Eric, has our guest joined us yet?
I'm waiting for his text right now. He's at a conference with him and the Oilers and the Flames right now. So they're catching up. So I should hear from him soon. But if we need to switch order, I'll go before he does.
Okay, no problem. So let me speak to this right now, and then hopefully Theo can come on here and talk a little bit. But for a pro athlete / influencer, here's what happens. You start building your fan base on TradeFan. You build value for your NFT, which means prizing. It means, maybe this guest of ours can autograph some hockey pucks, that type of thing. And then you launch your NFT, and then you keep building your fan base and connect other influencers, because guess what? Influencers know influencers, and influencers can get other influencers to actually take action. And then leverage the millions of people soon to be playing games with TradeFan. Okay. Leverage the millions of people soon to be playing games with TradeFan. And here's what's going to happen. You have an influencer that launches an NFT through FanCentric and Garrick Jones, and then they're connected to Same Here Global. So guess what? Some of the funds funnel to Same Here Global, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then, of course, the influencer also creates an income stream for him or her. So it's a great win for everyone. Now, before it sounds like we're waiting for our guest to come on, I'm going to have Eric Hewson, and just tell us your story. And I know we have a couple other guests here, Dr. John Rosa and Dr. Andrew Planer, and both of you, absolute pleasure to meet both of you. But I'll let Eric Hewson talk about his story and your involvement and why you're here with Trade Fans. So take it away, Eric, please.
Absolutely. And appreciate Trade Fan inviting us, and Fancentric with Garrick. Appreciate you including us in this. And yes, Chris was hitting up my inbox on LinkedIn. I guess that's where connections happen these days. It's interesting to be the spokesperson for a mental health organization, just because I did not think mental health was on my radar screen whatsoever. Probably like many of you. Oh, that happens to those people. That was my impression of it. The fact that we're talking about sports, the fact that we're talking about fantasy sports. I grew up an athlete, played every sport growing up in high school, walked onto the basketball team at Cornell University. So got a chance to lace them up, play some college basketball, and then went straight into a career working in professional sports, NBA league office, number of NBA teams, number of NHL teams. And I was 6 months into my tenure with the Florida Panthers, chief revenue officer, one spot away from my dream job, which was becoming a team president. And my brain and my body just fell apart. There's no other way to describe it other than I was ceasing to function. Couldn't put sentences together, couldn't look at people in the eyes and have coherent conversations, couldn't look at a menu and order something off a menu and remember what I want to eat to share that information with the waiter or waitress. And being from New York and being told that the top doctors were in the area, I live back here now. I came back. Oh, Theo just texted me, by the way. He said, I'm stuck right now at a bar, super loud. Let me try and get out. Okay, so we'll hopefully have him shortly. So I did what I think most people do when you don't feel right. You don't really know what feeling right even means in that moment. Is I went to what I was told were the top doctors, and the top doctors listened to my symptoms, and immediately I was given labels: anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD. And then based on my labels, I was given medication. For a 2.5-year span, leaving the Panthers, I was tried on over 50 different psychotropic drug combinations. I laid in a bed that whole time thinking I was working my ass off. So it sounds like kind of contradictory. How are you working your ass off if you're laying in a bed? It happened because as you're adjusting to medications, you feel like you're running a marathon. And just the attempt to try to stay alive during that is that difficult. And so in an attempt to adjust to those medications, unfortunately, that wasn't working for me. I was then told to try something called TMS therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, where they shoot electromagnetic waves into your brain. Unfortunately, 23 sessions into that, which was 23 days in a row, so I did it every single day, in an attempt to wake up my neurons and get my neurons firing again, I developed the first ever suicidal ideation I'd ever had. And I'm staring at this bottle of pills in front of me with a thought I'd never had before in my life: swallow that bottle, swallow that bottle, swallow that bottle. And I can't stop myself from that thought. And I'm wrestling in my mind thinking, why is one part of my brain telling me to do something, the other part of my brain is not? I'm going to introduce our doctors in a little bit, but I'm going to take some of their thunder away here. If you're under 50 years old in this country, the number one reason to die is an overdose, and the number two is suicide. Okay. So that already sounds like a lot of people are being impacted. I'm going to take it to the next level on that as I continue with my story here. So I went inpatient. I met with the top doctor at Cornell Med because of this ideation I was having. She looked at my chart. She's a Harvard trained doctor. And she said, Eric, you've tried everything there is, 50 drugs, TMS therapy. Your last resort is to do shock therapy, which she referred to as ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. It involves getting electrodes put on your brain under general anesthesia and shocked into seizure. And so I did that 12 times over the course of 5 weeks inpatient, and left the hospital feeling no better than I had the previous 2.5 years, essentially believing my life is over. I don't have anything else that can help me. I'm this thing called treatment resistant. And where the story flips and went in a positive direction, and where forming this organization came about, and then we'll tell you about our connections with Trade Fan and Fancentric, is I met a woman who practices something called integrative psychology. I didn't know what the term integrative meant. And as we went through my history, the background there is from the time I was 8 years old, I had an older brother, broke his femur bone playing football, was put into a body cast for a year and homeschooled. Healed from that, and a month later got diagnosed with ALL, which is a children's form of leukemia. So 5 years of chemo and radiation. not the best prognosis back in the late 80s, early 90s, but miracle, he goes into remission. A month later, he's in a Jeep Wrangler with his friends, open top, no seatbelt, car loses control, flies out of the back, lands on his head, cracks his head open, loses partial vision in his eyes, in ICU for a month. Heals from that, goes to college, feeling a pain in his knee. Same cancer from childhood's returned. Now that it's returned, they have to give him a stronger dose of the chemo. Chemo does a great job of lowering the cancer cell counts, but it beats the crap out of his body. And in beating the crap out of his body, it develops what's called septic shock, 105 fever. He goes into a coma, and the doctors are telling us they don't know if he's ever going to wake from the coma, and if he does, if he's ever going to have any brain activity. That continues for 3 months. We're holding on as a family. Hopefully a miracle happens. A miracle does happen. 3 months, he wakes, full cognitive faculties about him, but his kidneys fail from the rigor of the septic shock. So he has to go on dialysis. We all get tested to see who's the closest match. My father donates a kidney to him. That's successful. I get that first job at the NBA league office working for a gentleman named Mark Tatum, who's now the deputy commissioner of the NBA. That first year, 3 of my close friends pass away back to back to back, 22 and 23 years of age, of either misdiagnosed or undiagnosed heart conditions. One guy collapsed on a treadmill, one guy walking with heavy boxes up a flight of stairs. And so I share that background whenever we talk with organizations and we get into the nitty gritty of why do we partner. It's because of why we exist the same here. Because my realization from what I found out from that doctor, thinking that I was sitting in a bed for 2.5 years with something called a chemical imbalance, and being told that I had a label that defined what my chemical imbalance was, and I needed drugs specifically as my cure to balance out my imbalance. Someone wrote PTSD, Wendy, let's talk about that. What I went through is I went through a trauma history. And in going through that trauma history, what I realized was all those things I just shared with you, they sound specific to me. What's not specific to me is having someone in your family who has cancer, dealing with the sickness of a sibling, dealing with the loss of friends, having someone who's an organ transplant or donor, right? These things are common to all of us. When you look at divorce of parents, job loss, breakup, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, bullying, cyberbullying, sickness of loved ones, loss of loved ones, the list is a mile long of the things that happen to us. And as a society, that's why, Wendy, I'm happy you said PTSD, we get put into labeled buckets. So PTSD is something that is actually put on us as a name. The reality is there's not a person on this planet. It's different levels, but it's levels that we can't accurately measure. Everyone has trauma. And so the stat isn't that 1 in 5 people have mental illness. The stat is that 5 in 5 people face challenges that impact their mental health. There's not an us group and a them group. If we continue to use labels only like PTSD, depression, and anxiety, we lose, because we create a society of people who think they have it and they do something about it when shit hits the fan, excuse my language, like what happened with me. And then we have 80% of the society that says, I'm healthy, fine, normal, and okay, and there's nothing wrong with me, and I don't have to do anything. And those are the same people, just with a story in the news yesterday of a mother, 40 years old, murder-suicide of her 4-month-old child. How did these things happen? Because we're ticking time bombs, all of us. Just like a heart attack can happen out of nowhere when we don't see the plaque building in our arteries, stress and trauma build in our nervous system over time and can wreak havoc. And so the decision to partner with an organization like TradeFan and with Garrick on his end, you know, it's a difficult decision as a mental health organization to say, hey, this is the right, doesn't matter whether or not you're going to partner with someone where there might be money coming in and you're a charity and you need money to run your programs in schools, in offices, with military. I'm heading out to Nellis Air Force Base. Yeah, that's an easy decision. What's a tough decision is, do you put your brand together with an organization that's involved in gaming, potentially in gambling, potentially in ownership of teams? And the reality is, as I introduce one of my partners, Dr. Rosa, mental health being something that impacts all of us, and trauma being underlying every single thing we go through on this planet in terms of challenging life events, can be tied back to that. That leads to a common denominator that we all have, which is called emotional pain. And that emotional pain, we cover that emotional pain and we damn things like alcohol and drugs, understandably so, but we don't damn things like what I did, which is being a workaholic and bearing your nose in something because it feels good. Okay. And so the last thing I would do talking on a site about gaming is gaming's a bad thing. That's not what I mean. Anything in moderation is helpful to us. Okay. Anything in moderation that we enjoy. What happens is when we go beyond and we do too much of it and it becomes maladaptive to the point where we're using it as a cover up for that emotional pain that we're feeling. And so we're excited to partner with TradeFan and with FanCentric because we believe in the fact that they care about mental health and that they're bringing this message to sports fans, sports gamers, sports gamblers. It's important for us to dive into gambling specifically as well and how that is one of the addictions that often can happen. But we also, with respect to Garrick, believe in that model that when we can build this base of users that then come over on the NFT side on a fan purchasing perspective to have, whether it's partial ownership, whether it's full ownership in teams where you have people who are running it and are at executives levels like Garrick and Team Will Be, where mental health is important and is not just a check the box like we see coming from a guy who worked at a league office where, great, we got one of our endorsers to say they have anxiety. We just did mental health. That's not what mental health is. Mental health is programming, it's tools, it's helping people be educated to understand how to be proactive and look out for what is building up over time. That's what we're going to do together. So as I say that, Dr. Rosa, being an expert in the opioid crisis and the addiction crisis, surrogate to the White House for a few administrations, I figured he could add on a little bit more here.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Eric. It was a good synopsis. I don't want to go too long and not about stealing thunder that you mentioned what you mentioned earlier about the number one reason to die in this country is an overdose. The number two is suicide if you're 50 and younger. That basically is our full-blown working and population that we need to run a country. And that's no joke. We need to take that seriously. When you have a platform like you have and millions of people are going to get involved, the opposite of addiction is not sober, it's community, it's connection. Like the reason people self-soothe is because they don't have the protection and safety within an environment. So when you create a platform that delivers the ability to be communal in nature, you don't realize how much of a fix it is. The messaging is incredible that you wanted to include it here. And I think it's a grand message because we're losing. I'll give you a really quick example of what I mean by this, and then I'll end it. There's a study called Rat Park. And if you haven't heard of it, it's extremely interesting to take a look at what I mean by community. There's an isolated rat in a cage with a bottle of water and morphine-laced water, and isolated on its own, eventually goes to the morphine-laced water often enough where it becomes addicted and eventually overdoses. Then there's Rat Park. Rat Park is a very large area with hundreds of rats, intimacy, colored balls, food on demand, all that you would need, utopia for what rats would want in their community. Same two bottles are up there, the laced water and the regular water. They go to that laced water once and they don't return to it because it altered their perception of what was an incredible community. They went a step further and took the isolated rat in a cage that was on its own and already dependent on what was in the water bottle and removed it and placed it in Rat Park. And immediately on its own in the corner, shook itself out and detoxed itself because it wanted to be part of what that utopia or that community was. Now, yeah, it was a study called Rat Park. They then took it on and did several within the community setting of what human beings are like. We can't be completely isolated. Even if you're around people and think you're around them, but you still have everything done between your phone and your basement and you're 35 and living in the basement of your parents' house. We have a trouble with isolation. We're not communicating well in community at all. But what happens when you're at a game? What happens when you're involved with sports? It's incredible to be in an environment where you're high-fiving, spilling your beer while you do it to a guy you have no idea who the hell he is, but he's part of your tribe. It's just an unbelievable feeling. And you could reproduce that in this kind of an environment and be able to give them some tools by joining hands with a group like ours who understands and gets it. I've had long conversations even with Garrick, and this is just, to me, it's not only is a beautiful relationship and moving forward and designing the idea behind including mental health around this whole community-based structure, but the people behind it, it's a joy. Nobody, this is not a financial decision to go into the gaming community. This is like, I want to make a difference. I want to make sure people have a place to go and have fun. I want to see them be part of a community. I want to make a difference in people's lives. That's music to my ears. So I'm going to stop babbling because it's enough on my end, but I just appreciate that you've given us the time to at least tell you why we're excited about partnering up with you guys.
Theo texted me a message here because his Wi-Fi is in and out right now, which I know is an easy out, right? But I did tell Chris before this happened, he had that Oilers and Flames alumni session that's going on. He asked me to quickly, in 2 minutes, tell his story, which is an important story, why he's involved in Same Here, and then this quote about why he wants to get involved in what we're doing here together. But the reason Theo was the first endorser of Same Here from a sports perspective we ever got involved. Why was that? And it went back to Wendy's comment. Theo was the first public figure I saw to not share what his label was, to share what happened to him. He was a big time hockey player, ice hockey player up in Canada, who was raped over 150 times by his male coach when he was 15 years old. He didn't tell anyone about that. He played an entire NHL career, 15 years, made $50 million, and he drank, he drugged, he sexed, he gambled all $50 million away. And when he was done at the end, living in a house in New Mexico, there was a gun rattling between his teeth, about to end it because he had never learned any tools of how to live life on life's terms. He'd only been living them on his terms because he was so afraid to share with people what happened to him that the money and being able to get by with what he had and what he was able to cover up with was enough at that time. And so when Theo shared his first book, Playing with Fire, he shared what had happened to him. That's the flip we need to make in mental health. What did you go through? What happened to you? That's the thread that ties us together because that's the emotional pain. And Theo joined us back at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And what he wrote me here is, this is a club where everyone is already a member. They just don't all know it yet. I'm excited to join hands with Same Here. I believe with Same Here, our job is to collect people. We collect people. And to do it alongside an organization with TradeFan and with FanCentric that, yes, is focused on sports and the gaming community, but is prioritizing mental health, that's a dream combination. So to have athletes and entertainers like that who want to put messages like that out together, and I'm sure he will join us on the next call. He's been influential in a big way. He's become one of my best friends. He's a solid person. And to Dr. John's point, having the people behind an organization like this and a conglomerate like this and a collaboration like this, where the fabric of the people is what's good, that's what makes magic happen. So excited to be a part of it. And thank you guys all for allowing us to be.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Powerful stuff there for sure. Just amazing to have met you guys. I know that the first Zoom we did was exciting. I remember Dr. Rosa, Dr. Planer were both saying, I think you told them, yeah, the meeting went 60 minutes. And I said, well, only 10 of it was me. But it was incredible to meet you. And I'm so glad that we're connected. I really am, because I think this platform can make a difference. I really do. And I know you feel that. I know Dr. Rosa and Dr. Planer both feel that. So I appreciate you coming on board here. Garrett, could you just come on board real quick here, just a few minutes, talk about the NFT strategy as far as owning, professional teams and just the partnership with Same Here Global?
Yeah, no problem at all. I just kind of want to echo, what we've heard tonight in reference to mental health, and I'll kind of talk about what that means for me as far as being a professional athlete, and what that entails moving forward, in reference to team ownership and reimagining what that looks like, because there has to be an emphasis on mental health the same way the emphasis is on the physical aspect of the game. You know, because as athletes, you're expected to perform at 100% when you have so many other obstacles and storms going on in your life that can deter you from those things. And mental health is one of them, and not being able to know how to deal with different aspects of life. And from my various experiences, I really was operating around 65 to 70% and was still able to do that at an elite level. And just think of where we'll be once we implement a lot of what we have in this arsenal when it comes down to athletes, because you got to create a safe space. That's called culture. And that's what we're creating, you know, with these partnerships and thinking outside of the box when it comes down to what we're doing. Really quickly, when it comes to me, my background has been one of just defying odds. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. I did not get the memo that I was supposed to lose. And with that, that is exactly what we're doing with the whole fan-centric movement. The same here scenario in mental health, the situation with Trade Fan. We're using sports as a connective tissue. And when you do that, you know, and Dr. John and I had our conversation where we understood, okay, this is something that is going to be monumental because nobody looks at it like this. It's always business as usual. It's always the bottom line. And unfortunately, the fans and the athletes get lost in the shuffle because we're looked at as commodities when really we're the engine that makes everything go. So it's about reprogramming, changing the DNA, and from there, turning this into something special. So what we're doing is something that is disruptive, and it's a good disruption because it's needed, and it's something that's, you know, been in our faces for a long time. So if you look at the Green Bay Packers and what they've done as a community organization, you know, with allowing the fans to have ownership, you know, on paper, right? You know, those are the things that we looked at that started in 1923. And essentially what I wanted to do with FanCentric is bring that into the 21st century and incorporate Web3, DeFi, and just blockchain, you know, and be able to create a DAO that essentially allows us to bring fans in to give them a voice, because the fans are spending billions of dollars, but they don't really have a voice, because these teams can go 17-0 and 0-17 and still be profitable. So there's no reason for these owners to change. But with what we're putting together in reference to the NFT rewards community, with these NFTs, you get the opportunity to have exclusive meet and greets. You get the opportunity to have, you know, giveaways, being a part of a close-knit community in which you start to raise your economic ceiling as well as your mental capacity when it comes down to games and logistics. So it's an all-inclusive environment. It's us bridging the gap between fans and these athletes and creating family. And that's, for the most part, what we're doing. You know, especially with this set that we have now, as far as the legends, that's going to give everybody the opportunity to have say in a lot of things that go on before we open it up to the general public. Because right now, you know, letting the cat out of the bag, we're pretty close to possibly pulling off something that's going to be monumental in the Canadian Football League. And that's just the first step to it. We're checking all of the boxes that they want to see in ownership. And we're doing it from a private equity standpoint. And once we take down this team, which will be an expansion team, we'll essentially bring in our fan-centric community to have a say in a lot of what goes on. And we're going to make that interactive, and it's going to be a lot of fan engagement. You're going to be able to pick out the colors of the actual team and what that looks like. You know, I don't think anybody's been able to do that, you know, from a fan perspective. We're going to offer a lot of different things, and then that'll go into the WNBA, that'll go into Formula E, that'll go into Ice Cube's Big Three. All these different organizations and leagues we will stair step until we eventually get to the NFL, because we want to provide that proof of concept that it works, and we're going to have the fans involved in this thing every step of the way. So they'll get a chance to vote, be on fan advisory boards, and just have more say and have more skin in the game, and not just go home with an experience, but you're going home with something tangible. And those are the things that we want to bring to the table, have an opportunity to be around the guys, be around the different athletes, because it's not just going to be football. We'll have NBA. We got a situation with Baron Davis and his group right now where we're talking, he wants to do the exact same thing in the NBA. So we're going to turn this thing into something that's going to be monumental for the athletes and the fans and their families. And we're going to bring everybody together with these NFTs and this partnership that we have. And we're going to be able to bridge that gap and make people look at things a lot different. But mental health is a priority. It has to be, because everybody needs to be good. And in order to be good, we got to have that family dynamic and that community dynamic. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrick. And again, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Likewise, man.
For the past year. I mean, the time flies by.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question. Let me just share a couple more slides. This will only take a few minutes, but I want to wrap this up to kind of give you an idea of what we're doing with TradeFan and how it connects to Same Here and FanCentric and everything. So let me go ahead and move through this. Strategy. Again, we're building a massive community of TradeFan players. We're going to build this model. You win, I win, which we'll talk about here. I haven't talked about it tonight. Offer games with great prizes with, using digital rewards and NFTs. Okay, so that's the strategy. Here's one of the things that will get people just to refer people to the site. And again, we're building this community. So we have what we call VIP 12 games. You get 12 free players and active players, and you'll get into special games. So we've already had several people win TradeFan hats, TradeFan sweatshirts, and then several people, which is just about to be delivered, the rookie FanCentric NFT. So get 12 and you start to get in some of these special games. So that's pretty cool. What's the real thing that's going to take this viral though? It's called Winner Match. So you increase your odds of winning by referring others to the contest. Okay. Prizes will be matched. So for instance, if someday we have a contest for a car and you refer the winner, you would win a car as well. Right now we have $100 match contests. We're going to have NFT contests. We're going to have, I know that Theo is talking about doing some pucks, and we have a lot of influencers are going to be having these prizes in there, and every single time one of your people win, you win too. We've got people in this on the screen right now who've referred 57, 58 people, and guess what? Every time there's a contest, they have 57, 58 chances to win. So what happens is those 58 people say, hey, I'd like to win that. So they're going to refer people and so forth and so on. So that's what's going to happen with the winner match. But what else we got? We have the Super Bowl jackpot tournament. Details coming soon. But let's just say, what if it was $1 million? How many people would you refer? Let's say the top 40 people got paid in this contest and it was all free. But what if you referred the winner and you got a piece of $1 million? What if that happened? Okay, so you have to think big, think into the future, and not just the little things you win right now, but the things you can win along the road. And when this happens, the Super Bowl jackpot, there's going to be people referring people all day long. So reasons to share: winner match, refer a winner, you win too. TradeFan revenue share, I showed you that. But this is the only reason, the biggest reason. And I told the gentleman on the screen, Eric Houston, and the two doctors here, Dr. Planer, Dr. Rosa, if mental health wasn't a part of this, I wouldn't be doing it. Okay. There's more to life than making a lot of money. I believe through revenue share and just sharing a free game that we can all make a lot of money. There's no question. But that third reason is the reason. TradeFan's going to donate to Same Here Global every time a free player registers. Okay, every time a free player registers. And our goal ought to be to donate $1 million by the end of football season. That would be the goal. And I know that we can do that. And the fourth reason is it's fun. It's connectivity. It's having people just come on the site and having a blast, talking about it with your friends. Those are the 4 reasons. And if you only get behind one, it needs to be Same Here Global. Okay. That's an easy conversation for me. I'm going to tell you this right now, and hopefully I don't get emotional, but there's been some things that have happened in my life. Like Eric Houston said, everyone's life has been affected. Well, it's interesting because last night, my wife looks at me and says, "Hey, there's something going on with the neighbor kid, and he's got suicidal tendencies. And there's something, he met with a car and now he's going up in the hills. And what should we do?" And we're like, "I don't know what to do." Well, it was about 3 hours later, the ambulance showed up and the fire truck showed up, and this kid was in trouble. He tried to overdose. And so this is happening all over the place. And we have to make a difference. In the best way to do it, start sharing a free game and you have a chance to win. Okay. So share the games and help Same Here Global. Please do that. I can tell you this, if we keep it simple game plan, get people play games, get others to play games and have fun with them, we'll crush this thing. But here's the thing I know, nothing happens without taking action. This is a great plan. I presented this to a lot of key, very influential people, including the 3 guests on the screen here. And every single one of them say, this is an incredible idea, but it takes action. Okay. Just like Eric said, it's easy for the NBA to say, we put a stamp on it. We did our mental health awareness. We're good to go. It's not that. You have to take action. Okay. And what do we do to take action? Well, for me, it's to get people to play games, get others to play games and have fun with them. Everything takes care of itself. So I just wanted to end with that. I really appreciate the partnership we have. Dr. Pleener, do you have anything to add to the conversation? I know that you're very, go ahead.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. I think what's being built here is special. Just a little bit of my background, Dr. Andrew Pleener, integrative psychiatrist. I oversee a couple of networks in Same Here, the Same Here Psych Alliance and the Same Here Star Alliance. We all go through challenges in life, breakups, divorces, job losses, sickness of loved ones. And the stress and trauma from these events, they build up in us. And actually, we wait until the point when we get to a disorder before we actually get help. And it's not like that when it comes to physical health. With physical health, we actually learn the science behind how sedentary lifestyle and poor diet leads to plaque that builds up in our arteries, that leads to muscles that atrophy. And we recognize that it's something that we all have and champion. And there's gyms on every single corner, wherever we look. My role in Same Here is to put together networks of integrative mental health practitioners around the United States and internationally that know the brain-body connection, that could explain the science behind how these challenging life events that Eric had described, how it actually leads to hormonal changes, inflammation in the cells, disruptive rhythms in the body that accumulate over time, impacting the way we think, feel, function, and perform, so that people could actually be motivated to engage. And the Same Here Star Alliance, Stress, Trauma, Active Release, and Rewiring, is a network of inventors, head researchers, and influencers around the world, inventors of different modalities to heal, inventors of ACT therapy, brain spotting, trauma releasing exercises, tapping, breath work, yoga. Because what we always hear is that we hit this point getting a breakdown, and then when we react, we're being told to do singular modalities, and we're not learning about all the other options that exist, just like we do with physical health. So our goal is to spread the message that we all have a story, we all go through challenging life events, and through these networks of relationships with integrated mental health practitioners, we can start to actually learn the science behind how these life events actually impact us, and then we could actually learn the tools to proactively heal, so we could start to thrive and live more optimal lives.
I'll close the loop on what Dr. Pleener shared because it ties into what Chris and Garrick were talking about. Whatever is raised, right? I mean, I know in a lofty way, Chris says $1 million. I don't care if it's $10, right? We get into this. It'd be nice to have a lot, but it's what do we do with it? I've been someone who's given to charities my whole life, and then I don't know where the money goes. And I hope with Dr. Pleener sharing, we have programs in 5 areas. You can check them out with all the pictures on our website, samehereglobal.org. Those 5 areas are K through 12s, colleges, sports teams and leagues, corporate offices, and then service departments. I've mentioned Nellis Air Force Base a couple of times just because can't get it off of my mind that we're working with the biggest Air Force base in the country right now. These things are happening, and we have tools to be able to help people. In the last 5 years, we've been able to implement tools that help people better monitor and regulate how their nervous system is changing. And then to Dr. Pleener's point, get the tools necessary to start to work on how that nervous system is impacted, so we don't have some of the outcomes like what Chris described with his neighbor, and like what I described with, unfortunately, that 4-year-old woman who's a doctor at Mount Sinai. We can prevent that from happening. We're in this space. We started as a nonprofit because we want to be able to take all of what we're able to do and bring programming out to the masses. And that's something that, you know, it warms our heart to be able to do, and to do it in a sports arena where culture is being created in a community type of way. It's a win-win all around that way. So we're just appreciative for anyone who kind of jumps on board and is a part of doing this with us. And we'll keep everyone posted as to how the growth of the programming happens. So this is not going to be you're getting people to show up and then all of a sudden, oh, great, that money's getting donated to a charity. What the hell do they do with it? You will see the impact that the trade fan community and the Fanstart community has on the impact that we're making in the community.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for wrapping that up. And thank you, Dr. Pleener. Again, a pleasure to meet you guys. We'll go ahead and wrap up tonight, and we'll be doing another Zoom here in a few weeks here with I think Theo will be on that one. We'll make sure we'll plan it around his schedule.
I've sent you a couple of his texts, Chris, just so that everyone he's upset he's not here, but
Yeah, no worries. But hey, thank you everyone for joining us. I think you can get the feel for how big this can be. And what I mean by big is I really think this is going to be a story that possibly ESPN or someone tells one day. A company, 3 companies came together, Trade Fan, Same Here Global, and Fancentric, and made a difference. And this is how they did it. And it's growing and expanding. You have to visualize that. You have to see it before it happens. But I really believe that. But it's up to us. So thank you guys for joining the Zoom. I'll get the recording out as soon as it's available. And thanks again, guys, and everyone have a great night. Take care now.
thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye.